I'm a park ranger. Something in the woods is taking people. My name is Ben McAllister, and I've been a park ranger at Yosemite National Park for over 20 years. My love for the outdoors began when I was a kid, growing up in a small town on the outskirts of the park. My father, George McAllister, was a ranger too, and he used to take me on long hikes, teaching me about the wildlife, the trees, and the stars that blanketed the night sky. He was a man of few words, but his love for the park was evident in every step he took and every lesson he imparted. When I turned 22, following in his footsteps seemed the most natural thing in the world. As a child, I spent more time in the woods than at home. My mother passed away when I was young, and the forest became my sanctuary. The towering trees, the sound of the rushing Merced River, the sight of deer grazing in the meadows, all of it felt like home. My father was my hero, and I wanted nothing more than to be like him, to protect the land we both loved so dearly. After finishing high school, I joined the military, serving in the Army for 4 years. The discipline and survival skills I learned there prepared me for my future role as a ranger. When I returned home, I enrolled in college, studying environmental science. The day I graduated, my father pinned my ranger badge on my uniform, his eyes filled with pride. It was the happiest day of my life. My daily routine as a ranger is a mix of the mundane and the thrilling. I patrol the park's vast expanse, ensuring the safety of visitors, maintaining trails, and sometimes rescuing lost hikers. Each day starts with a briefing at the ranger station, where we discuss any incidents from the previous day and assign tasks. I love the early mornings the most, when the park is still shrouded in mist and the world feels almost untouched by time. The smell of pine and earth, the sight of the sun rising over the granite cliffs, these moments make all the hard work worthwhile. My duties include checking the trails for fallen trees, assisting with controlled burns, monitoring wildlife populations, and educating visitors about the park's history and natural wonders. I also conduct search and rescue operations, which can be both physically and emotionally demanding. But not everything in Yosemite is as it seems. Over the years, I've encountered things that defy explanation, bizarre, unsettling experiences that I've kept mostly to myself. Until now. I'm sharing these stories because I believe they're connected, and the truth needs to be known. It was a warm summer evening when I received a call about a missing family. A father, mother, and their young daughter had set up camp near a secluded area of the park. They were experienced campers, so when they failed to check in with the ranger station, it raised immediate concerns. I drove out to their campsite, expecting to find them lost or injured, but what I discovered was far more disturbing. The campsite was eerily quiet. The tent was still pitched, and their belongings were scattered about, but there was no sign of the family. The campfire was still burning, and food was left cooking on a portable stove. It was as if they had simply vanished into thin air. I called out their names, my voice echoing through the trees, but there was no response. I searched the surrounding area, finding no tracks or signs of a struggle. It was as if they had been plucked from the earth by an invisible hand. The hairs on the back of my neck stood on end, and an unsettling feeling settled in my stomach. Despite extensive searches by multiple rangers over the following weeks, the family was never found. The incident was officially recorded as an unsolved disappearance, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something unnatural had happened. During a winter patrol, I was driving through the valley when I saw strange lights in the sky above El Capitan. At first, I thought they were flares or a strange weather phenomenon, but as I watched, the lights moved in ways that defied physics. They hovered, dipped, and darted across the sky with an intelligence that suggested something otherworldly. I radioed the ranger station to report the lights, but no one else had seen them. I parked my vehicle and stepped outside, the cold air biting at my skin. The lights continued their dance, casting an eerie glow over the landscape. They moved with a fluidity that no human-made object could replicate, and then, as suddenly as they appeared, they vanished behind the mountains. Reports of these lights came in sporadically over the years, always in the same area. Some visitors claimed they were UFOs, while others believed they were spirits. I wasn't sure what to believe, but I knew one thing for certain: something strange was happening in Yosemite. Late one night, while on a solo patrol near Tuolumne Meadows, I heard a deep, guttural howl echoing through the valley. It wasn't any animal I recognized, and it sent chills down my spine. The howls continued, haunting the night, but every time I tried to locate the source, it eluded me. The sound was both mournful and menacing, like a creature in pain or a predator hunting its prey. The next day, I asked other rangers if they had heard the howling, but no one had. Over the years, visitors and other rangers reported similar experiences, but we never found the creature responsible. Some believed it was a wolf or a bear, but the sound was unlike anything native to the park. While clearing a remote trail, I stumbled upon a circle of stones, each one etched with strange symbols. They seemed ancient, worn down by time, and gave off an unsettling energy. The symbols were unlike any Native American petroglyphs I had seen before, and they seemed to pulsate with a faint, eerie light. I documented the site and reported it to the park archaeologist, but when I returned with a team, the stones were gone. The ground where they had been was undisturbed, as if they had never existed. The archaeologist suggested it might have been a prank, but I couldn't shake the feeling that the stones had some deeper significance. On a foggy morning, I was patrolling near Glacier Point when I saw a figure standing on a cliff edge, dressed in old-fashioned clothing. Thinking it was a lost hiker, I called out, but the figure didn't respond. As I approached, it turned and walked off the edge, vanishing into the mist. I rushed to the spot, expecting to find a body or some sign of the person, but there was nothing there. The cliff edge was sheer, with no handholds or ledges where someone could have climbed down. It was as if the figure had walked into another dimension. I reported the incident, but without any evidence, it was dismissed as a trick of the light or my imagination. Exploring a hidden cave system near Half Dome, I discovered ancient paintings depicting a creature with glowing eyes and elongated limbs. The paintings showed the creature interacting with humans, sometimes peacefully, sometimes not. The style was unlike anything I'd seen before, and it made me wonder about the legends of the indigenous people who once lived here. The creature in the paintings had an unsettling presence, its eyes seemingly following me as I moved through the cave. I took photographs and made detailed notes, hoping to find an explanation, but when I returned with an expert, the paintings were gone. The cave walls were smooth and unmarked, as if the images had been erased by an unseen hand. One evening, alone near Mariposa Grove, I heard voices calling my name. They seemed to come from all around, whispering from the trees and rocks. The voices sounded like people I knew, but distorted and wrong. I tried to ignore them, but they grew louder, more insistent, filling my head with a cacophony of eerie calls. I searched the area, thinking it was a prank or my mind playing tricks on me, but found nothing. The voices continued until dawn, stopping abruptly as the first rays of sunlight pierced the forest. I packed up my camp and left, shaken and unnerved by the experience. Deep in the backcountry near Tenaya Lake, I found an old, abandoned cabin that wasn't on any maps. The cabin was weathered and falling apart. But inside it was filled with strange artifacts, bones, jars of unidentifiable substances, and journals written in an unknown language. The cabin looked lived in, but there were no signs of recent habitation. The journals were filled with drawings of the creature from the cave paintings, along with cryptic notes and symbols. I felt like I was being watched the entire time I was there, an oppressive presence lurking just beyond the walls. I took some of the journals for analysis, but when I returned, the cabin had disappeared. The clearing where it had stood was empty, with no trace of the structure. Over several months, I noticed trees with strange claw-like markings appearing throughout the park. The marks were too high to be made by any known animal, and they seemed to form a pattern, almost like a map. I tried to trace the pattern, but it didn't make sense until later. The marks were always fresh, as if made recently, but there were no tracks or other signs of an animal. The bark was peeled away in long, deep gouges, revealing the raw wood beneath. It was unsettling to see, as if some malevolent force was marking its territory. I mapped out the locations of the marked trees and noticed they formed a large circle, with the stone circle I had discovered at its center. The culmination of these experiences happened one night while I was on a routine patrol near the site of the vanishing campers. The air was thick with tension, and the forest was unnaturally quiet. No birds sang, no insects chirped. It was as if the entire valley was holding its breath. I felt a growing sense of unease, but I pressed on, determined to uncover the truth. As I reached the area, the same guttural howl I had heard years ago pierced the silence. It was louder and closer than ever before. I turned, my flashlight cutting through the darkness, and there it was, a towering figure with glowing eyes emerging from the shadows. The creature was unlike anything I had ever seen. It stood at least 8 feet tall, with elongated limbs and a gaunt, almost skeletal frame. Its skin was pale and translucent, and its eyes burned with an otherworldly light, casting an eerie glow on its surroundings. The creature's eyes locked onto mine, and I felt a wave of fear wash over me. It was a primal, instinctual terror, as if every fiber of my being was screaming at me to run. But I stood my ground, unable to tear my gaze away from the creature. It moved with a fluid grace, its movements almost hypnotic, and I could see the ancient symbols from the stone circle etched into its skin, glowing faintly. As it advanced, I instinctively reached for my sidearm. I had never fired it at anything other than practice targets, but the sheer terror of the moment left me no choice. I aimed at the creature and squeezed the trigger. The first shot rang out, echoing through the trees, and the creature recoiled, its eyes narrowing in what seemed like anger. I fired again and again, the bullets tearing into its translucent skin. Instead of blood, a dark, viscous substance oozed from the wounds. The creature let out a deafening howl, a sound that reverberated through my bones, and in that moment, I knew I had to escape. The shots had slowed it down, but they hadn't stopped it. I turned and ran, my heart pounding in my chest. I didn't look back, but I could hear the creature's heavy footsteps behind me. As I neared the stone circle, I felt a strange energy in the air, almost like a magnetic pull. The stones were glowing brighter now, their light illuminating the path ahead. I reached the circle and turned to see the creature just a few feet away. In a final act of desperation, I fired my last round into the ground at its feet. The explosion of dirt and rock created a brief distraction, and I used the moment to dash into the circle. As I stood in the circle, panting and exhausted, the connections between all the bizarre experiences clicked into place. The vanishing campers, the phantom lights, the howling, the stone circle, they were all signs of the creature's presence. The ancient paintings and the journals in the cabin hinted at an ancient being that had existed in these mountains long before humans arrived. The claw marks on the trees formed a map, leading to the stone circle, which seemed to be a portal or gateway. The creature, whatever it was, appeared to be some kind of guardian or sentinel, tied to the land in ways I couldn't fully understand. It moved through the forest with an ease that suggested it was intimately connected to the very fabric of the park. The stone circle seemed to be a focal point, a place of power that the creature returned to. It was both a marker of its territory and a gateway to another realm. I reported my encounter to my superiors, but they dismissed it as stress and overwork. They insisted there were rational explanations for everything I had seen, but I knew what I had witnessed. The creature was real, and it was still out there, watching, waiting. Yosemite is a place of breathtaking beauty, but it also harbors ancient secrets and things that defy understanding. A few weeks after my encounter, I received a call that would change everything. It was from an old ranger named Tom Jenkins, who had retired years before I started. His voice was raspy and filled with urgency. "Ben, I heard about what happened. They tried to hush it up, didn't they?" I hesitated, then replied, "Yeah, they said it was nothing." Tom sighed. "They always do. Listen, I've seen that creature too. So have others. The higher-ups know about it. They've been hiding the evidence for years, blaming the disappearances on accidents or getting lost. But the truth is, people are being taken by that thing." "But why?" I asked, my mind racing. "I don't know," Tom admitted, "but it's tied to that stone circle. There's something ancient and powerful about it. The creature guards it, uses it somehow. Whatever you do, be careful. They don't want this getting out, and they'll do anything to keep it quiet." The call ended, leaving me with more questions than answers. But one thing was clear: I wasn't alone. The creature was real, and there were others who knew the truth. I couldn't continue my work. I packed my stuff, moved to a new city, and got a new job. I have constant fear that either the superiors or government might harm me for what I know, and also fear for what I saw that day. To this day, I carry with me the lessons learned from my time in Yosemite. I warn others against venturing into the wilderness alone, not just for the physical dangers that lurk in the shadows, but for the mysteries that defy explanation. Nature is both beautiful and unpredictable, and its secrets are not easily unraveled. As I look back on my life as a ranger, I am grateful for the experiences that shaped me and the connections forged with the natural world. Though I may never return to Yosemite, its spirit will forever linger in my heart, a testament to the enduring power and mystery of our planet's wild places.